while I do. All right. So, some people don't know anything about what happened, so I'm going to have to lay out a little bit of background. But basically, at some point, someone linked in the Telegram that some content creator that is part of runs a channel called The Crucible, named Andrew Wilson, was going to do a takedown sort of hit piece stream on James True. And so they just kind of posted in the Telegram, and James actually went into the chat of that one and just said, you know, have fun, guys, with it. This is all part of the hermetical journey, you know, have at it. And that was kind of that. So sort of like Courtney said the other night, I wondered if there would be actual attacking of ideas, because he'd been talking about lately about the whole no objective reality and, you know, that kind of thing. And it was none of that, right? Like, it had nothing to do with that. And in fact, if I had to describe most of the type of humor it was people that couldn't understand what was being said and were laughing about how stupid it all sounded because they couldn't understand any of it. It was almost like, the closest analogy I could find would be like if you had a couple people listening to a couple people speak Chinese and were just laughing about how funny it sounded, which is actually one of the reasons that I think Fail by Jim Bob's impression of James actually resonates with that crowd, is very accurate, because the way he does it, he just streams together nonsensical words that actually make no sense. So for that crowd, it sounds like a appropriate impression because none of it makes any sense. So that's kind of the level of the humor of it. And there's also, I got to mention, there's sort of a white belt beauty to this. Like, you're kind of laughing at your own ignorance, like at a fundamental level. Like, there's this, you're laughing at your ignorance. That's kind of what's so funny about it. Now, that dude has no actual comedic talent. He can't create at all. And in fact, speaking to that, I would say that the best way to describe him is a parasite. This dude cannot create anything on his own, right? Like, the energy that was brought to any of his projects is brought from the outside. It's not from him. So it was this tribe's energy and James's energy that made him over $1,000 that night in the roast. And the other stuff that he does other than these kind of roasty things is that they host these debates. And this debate thing is the same way, right? He's just hosting. So other people have to bring all the passion and the insight. He just is there as a parasite to feed off the energy that other people bring. And just one real quick note about that debate style format that they run out of that show. That show and that kind of debate is actually super hostile to actually dilating aperture, which is ironic because you think that would be the opposite of what you'd want a debate. You think you'd want a debate to dilate the aperture of people about the topics that you're debating about, and it's actually the opposite. Now, I've only been able to stomach short bits of those shows, but it's actually more listening to the creators that go on those shows to argue and their mentality going on the shows that made me want to mention it, because I hear the same thing over and over. They say that when they go in, they don't care at all about what the other side thinks or what the other side is going to react to their position. They only care about how they're going to sound like to the casual undecided. They go in with that mentality. And so basically from both sides, you get only dogma and you never give an inch, because their whole idea is they need to sound so good to this casual undecided. But the irony of all this is that at these events, there are basically no casual undecideds, because in order to gain any enjoyment or dilation from the fight spectacle that this has, you have to be invested in one of the sides. Like, that's where the enjoyment comes in. If you were not invested in either side of the flat earth globe debate, you would just be sitting there going, why are these people so angry at each other? And probably change the channel, kind of thing. It's funny. So there's nothing about that debate style format that's actually going to create anything new. And eventually I'm going to show you throughout this why that lack of newness is actually so ironic. So he's a parasite, a hookworm, okay? He creates nothing. And in fact, at one point, Failed by Jim Bob was doing his mopey James True impression. And he said, I have written several books. How many have you written? To which Hookworm responded, I kind of ride on the coattails of my wife's book because it's a bestseller. How many bestsellers do you have? Okay, all right, Hookworm, we get it. Settle down. We see it. Now, one other thing, just as a dojo witness freebie for Hookworm, as your wife writes more of these very successful books and gains more and more energy, it's going to get less and less tolerable to have a parasitic man-child feeding off of her. Just, clock's ticking, buddy. Anyway, so there are these guys that I sort of think about as the new righties, the new right guys, and they sort of came to the right only drawn by the fashion. And we talk about fashion being in everything, but often part of the fashion that draws us is some of the ideas in it, or maybe some of the people we meet in it or something, right? But for some people, it is literally the thing that becomes the most fashionable is the draw by that nature, right? And they're really good at the fashion part of it. And this guy strikes me as exactly one of those kind of dudes. He's got the perfect beard, right? They're obsessed with the beard as being like a man's man beard, and yet it's groomed like a metrosexual. And yet that's the man's beard. And instead of offering his own accomplishments Failed by Jim Bob was trying to kind of set him up with a softball, he throws his wife up and her accomplishments, almost like she's a shield to him, the manly man. And then on top of that, at one point he joked about if my wife hadn't put out this shirt, I would still be in the same crap I was wearing earlier. As if that's supposed to sort of suggest that he's like a bro, I don't care about what I wear. But dude, when your wife has to lay out your clothing, that doesn't make you look like a bro, makes you look like a boy. But as I said, clock is ticking, man-child. And also the whole salacious takedown format. Sorry, ladies, you just have to forgive me on this one. It just feels oily as fuck when you're ridiculing people for what they're wearing and shit, especially coming from a dude. All right, so this is just kind of setting the table, all right, for folks that didn't get to watch any of it, to have a feel for sort of the hyena low-level energy vibe that Hookworm feeds from, all right? This is Age of Pisces hanger-ons who couldn't manufacture enough lift from the best apocalypse ever over the last few years that kind of took us into Aquarius, all right? So I'm curious what's going to happen in this thing. I turn it on. The first thing I see is he's showing a clip in sort of the intro of one of his streams where, James, you dressed up as Hitler and we're joking around, right? And I got a couple things I want to mention about this. Okay, so first off, again, I mentioned this is sort of that new right-wingy thing. His particular one, he's sort of like an orthodox bro, but it's all this kind of right-wing thing. And they have actually often really promoted and celebrated comedians that will use the Hitler thing as a way to piss off the woke, that we're always constantly talking as everything being Hitler or Nazi or whatever. And in fact, there was that Count Dankula guy that dressed up his girlfriend's pug in a Hitler uniform and taught it how to do the salute. And that literally launched his career in the right wing. Just that alone, and the salaciousness and kind of reward he got. But secondly, and this is way better than that, is that the airships that he eventually would show during this, or the airship that he showed during this, was the airship that we had right after James had gotten back from 5.5 and had finished the stream where he goes after the telegram. And it kind of starts that fallout with Sark. And so I didn't realize it at the moment, but that was a sync right off the fucking bat, dude. We've got him dressed up as Hitler as we're about to have the fallout with Sark displayed later in the airship. So I just fucking thought it was beautiful. So anyway, I listened to a little bit. I heard that it was going to be that kind of hyena style, not humor. And so I just kind of put it on mute, put the tab away, and was doing other stuff, playing games or whatever. And we just kind of go back in and out every now and then to see what was going on. I caught the Failed by Jim Bob impression. But it was only once I saw the airship was suddenly on the screen that I actually kind of like started listening consistently and looking at the YouTube chat and that kind of stuff. And that is when I saw Johnny B kind of yucking it up in the chat. And at that point, pretty quickly, I sent him a message through Telegram to the extent of like, you know, dude, I really kind of held out hope for you, but seeing you enjoying them ridiculing just, you know, random people from the airship, just you're trash, or you look like trash or is trash or something like that. And then I blocked him. And he did have access to the Patreon until the end of May. So he had perfect access to get the links. And him being there and really enjoying that kind of catapults him to the top of the likely candidates to have leaked the links. I can't say that for sure, but I don't know, man. But I've tasted this flavor before with other people in the Occupy experience a couple times. And it's disgusting. It's probably one of the most repellent flavors I've ever tasted. And I think that's because I actually liked the person before it went this way. So it is truly like a revolting, kind of disgusting, like I get that you can have beef with me or James, or whatever, but I really thought there would be other people there that he spent a lot of time with in the past that he would have some care for. And yet no. So, but even in that, the scaffolding is all a fucking round us. And even this produced a sink. All right. So as the airship is up, playing on Hookworm's stream, he's got the moment of me talking about my experience with Sark at 5.5, of me telling James about my experience and how I enjoyed it and whatever. And then I go on to say that I'm most disappointed with Tease and I don't know what to think about Johnny. And within moments, Johnny's in the chat going, hey, that guy in the bottom right just sent me a message saying I'm trash for enjoying this, LOL. So it was like the metaverse like updated itself in real time. Like now we know exactly how I feel about Johnny. That was just set up by the airship going on as I'm talking. So it was just, or as I'm waiting and watching. All right, so at this point, it's gone on for quite a while. He's called out James to come on or whatever. James had gone into the chat and apologized to people for the airship being leaked and mentioned that he was going to try to do a copyright strike. And so eventually I used the link that he kept promoting to get on the calls, to sort of call in, right? They eventually put me on there and the interaction was like pleasant in the sense that like he wasn't like directly like, you know, yelling over me or insulting me per se directly or, you know, just that kind of thing. It wasn't like retarded to that sort of level. And my focus when I was calling in, my thought was he was sort of towards the end of the show already. I thought maybe if I just focused on, you know, why are you kind of mildly doxing or promoting or ridiculing these random people that aren't intentionally trying to be public personalities, and to see if maybe he would go ahead and stop playing them with the hope that would kind of set the precedent that he wouldn't want to do that again in the future. Now, at the time, I did not realize that he had already planned to do a after stream, which he did, where he played at least 2 more airships, I think. I have not looked at it. I just kind of flipped through images a little bit just to get a feel, but it wasn't even worth my time. I was just kind of curious. But so that happened afterward. I didn't realize. So what I was asking was even more expensive than I realized, right? Because he doesn't create. So if I take what he's about to spend his after party on, he's got nothing. So I'm actually asking for something more expensive than I even realized. But regardless, the response I got from him was fascinating because he listened to what I said. He's like, okay, yeah, it's reasonable, I get. And he kind of repeated it back to me and could show that he understood the basics of it, like he's sort of bystander. You know, I tried to correct that and say, it's not really about bystander, they're private, but whatever. You kind of basically get it. And then he gave me this response. And I've been thinking about witch burnings or scapegoats, right? Scapegoat technology. That's what we're talking about with witch burnings. And I'm not saying this is probably the case in all witch burnings or scapegoating, but I bet you it's pretty common that in a witch burning scenario, people project the things they don't like about themselves onto the witch and then burn it. I think that's probably a pretty common use of the tactic. It just makes sense. Again, I think this could very well be unconscious. I think probably most of the time it's unconscious. It's not a conscious thing, right? Okay, so when he gave me the response, we of this tribe, especially those that have been here for a while, know how retarded the response is in relation to our tribe. Okay, but when I read this to you, imagine this as he is talking about himself unconsciously, projecting onto the witch that he is about to burn or is burning. All right, so this is his response. These people are funding this guy. Because they are funding this guy, and I think this guy is a lunatic and toxic and terrible for people's mental health and their sanity, he has no idea what the fuck he is talking about, and he's an idiot, and these are my contentions. I believe most of these people are broken. Most of these people have extreme trauma or externalities that lead them to this guy. This is the last guy on planet Earth any human being should be going to for any sort of advice whatsoever about anything. All right. Now, if that's how you subconsciously feel about yourself, that this is the last guy on the planet Earth any human being should be going to for any sort of advice whatsoever about anything, it helps understand how you could become such a fucking parasite or be at a parasite level of energy to the point where you end up producing content that is farming literally the lowest common denominator hyena pits possible. Because he thinks he's the last guy on planet Earth any human being should be going to for any sort of advice whatsoever about anything. Which is why he does debate shows where other people bring the opinions of what people should be doing about stuff. Because subconsciously, he thinks he is the last guy on planet Earth any human being should be going to for any sort of advice whatsoever about anything. Now, we're getting to my favorite part. And we're getting to the part where I see scaffolding fucking everywhere, and it is screaming opportunity to us, okay? So Hookworm ridiculed the notion of esoteric stuff more than once, and during Fail by Jim Bob's impression, he harped on alchemy and alchemizing in that kind of retarded way, right? This show is called The Crucible. Okay, there are two definitions for the word crucible. All right, one, a metal or ceramic container where you can melt metals at high temperatures. Second, a situation or severe trial in which different elements interact, leading to the creation of something new. Okay, now presumably it's the second definition why one uses The Crucible as the title for a debate show. Even though I already showed you, it actually creates nothing new, right? This is the upside down low energy version of what The Crucible is. It literally creates nothing new. Well, okay, it creates fiat. That could be something new. And it actually kind of reminds me of the archetype of the Philosopher's Stone, but I'm not sure about that archetype. So I want to talk about that later sometime, but I think there's something there. But guys, the reason the word crucible even has the second definition, right? The severe trial in which different elements interact, leading to the creation of something new, is because it's wrapped up in the alchemy and hermetic principles. That is why that second definition of crucible even fucking exists. It is right in their fucking face, and they can't even see it, and they even make fun of it, like the rest of their fucking humor. Oh, look at that stupid shit. We can't understand it, even if we harness the power from that exact fucking archetype to brand the show on which we are shitting on esoteric concepts like alchemy. Now, regardless of the endless ways I can show Hookworm how to effectively ridicule someone, the reason this is my favorite part is because this part is about my tribe. And if we're truly going to see it and embrace it. All right, guys, there's a huge fucking billboard. It's got Crucible written on it, and it is the source of vitriol. I don't know how much more obvious the scaffolding can be fucking to us who claim we are on a hermetic path. Okay? Cannot be more fucking obvious. It could not be more obvious. All right. There will always be discomfort when we climb our tribal hermetic ladder. Okay. That is what holding more energy to the point of feeling it like your normal posture again feels like. You get all this energy from 5-5. We get this new energy of people that come in that's resonating at this higher energy level that we're going to. We dump weight that's dragging us fucking down. We're now feeling this new levity. And what does that feel like? It feels fucking uncomfortable. It feels good, but it feels uncomfortable. It feels like I have to be ready for a presentation. I have to be at an extra meeting. I have to think about something else. I have to deal with attention from fucking hyena level pit retards that I wasn't expecting. That's what it feels like. You've grabbed the next rung of the hermetic ladder, and all that effort to actually pull yourself up is the process of it feeling uncomfortable. Okay. It's not until it stops feeling uncomfortable that you've finally climbed up that next ladder rung and it feels normal. So if we want to keep climbing, we alchemize this and we reach for the next rung. If we leak it away, we're going to stay where we are, or we're going to fall further down the ladder. Right. It is not an accident that this is the first time the tribe's videos are involved in a James True conflict that's public. Okay, the tribe itself is pulling torque. Okay, we're pulling torque now, so we have to approach this as a tribe so that James doesn't have to carry most of the weight. It is irresponsible to expect him to, and James, it is irresponsible for you to fucking try. Okay, I don't know the weight of the level of doxing Sarah experienced with her image and name displayed on YouTube's public square. But Sarah can carry that weight. I don't know how heavy it was for Chris and her fucking kid being ridiculed, but Chris can carry that weight. Mercury can carry that weight. When I got made fun of, I can carry that fucking weight. Okay. Now, I'm not saying this shit because I've been seeing strife for any of that. I'm actually really pleased with the reaction I've been seeing. But I also came to understand a long fucking time ago, there's always subterranean shit going on that I don't see. So I'm choosing to be very open and blunt. If we want to climb the hermetic ladder as a tribe, that's how it's going to work. It's no one else's job to ease your vitriol. Though as tribe, we're often going to try to do that for each other. But we must all be pulling weight. That's real tribal alchemy, creating something new. And that's my challenge to you all as Red Chief, and especially to you, James. You got to let go of some of that fucking weight. It's not all your weight anymore. The tribe is pulling fucking torque. Now, I am really glad, actually, that this happened before we started Dojo again. Because now we can go to a dojo all accepting that Dojo is not private. Okay, people use that illusion because they needed that comfort to be able to do the difficult shit of sharing stuff that's difficult to share. All right, but that's done. We're past that. We've leveled up. Okay, there's no such thing. It's impossible for us to stop a disgruntled, low energy bitch from leaking links to vids or vids themselves to outside forces. That's never going to stop. I mean, we can't stop that. All right. That's not possible. Now, I do think this was a good apocalypse where it also revealed the value of our resources. And I think there are some changes that we can make that will make it more expensive for someone to try to parasite off our fucking resources. So I think those are conversations that we're going to have. But, you know, guys, it's just a reality. You know, when you have a tribe, occasionally you're just going to catch a mild case of hookworm. It just happens. All right, that's it. I give up the floor.
Thank you, Noam. It was fantastic. Actually have a video of you from the weekend, and you carried yourself really well. That video is probably around. Someone asked me for it. It's just a clip that actually Sarah sent me. But yeah, Alara, go ahead.
Thanks. I want to speak for maybe like 5 minutes. So does anyone have anything to interject before that?
I
Okay,
do.
okay, go ahead.
I just appreciate that you talked about ignorance. That's always a good reminder.
It is. So what I've been thinking about this a lot too, because as the manager, right, I have all of your best interests at heart. And I want to make sure that if there's a minor put on the internet without the parent consent, that is a clear and valid reason to get a video taken down. So I guess I would just like to say, if Andrew Wilson sees this, okay, first of all, I think that he was commissioned to do that episode, meaning somebody paid him to do this about James True. And so I think he went into it with very little homework done. He probably did less homework than a book critic. You know, obviously he just was fed clips, or maybe he just like watched an episode and happened to see that. And it was one missed inside joke after another, you know, like No Pants Friday. You know, like, okay,
Hold on,
so,
Laura. Oh, sorry, real quick. I can just give you some context. So he and Failed by Jim Bob are both those Orthodox bros, and Failed by Jim Bob hated James True since the Owen meltdowns. So like, just receiving those airship things was enough of a lure for him to do something.
Yeah. So I think it's very sadistic. Their sense of humor wasn't funny to me at all. If it had been a roast and it was actually funny, I think that would have been, I wouldn't feel so bad about what happened, but I feel kind of bad about it just because it was so, it was just like shitty human behavior. But anyway, so yes, he's doing this for money, and obviously for Jim Bob's approval. And they're on this right-wing path, right? And they do kind of look like extremists at times. And I know that I've had friends that are like very right-wing like that. They're very traditional. They want to, you know, maybe either Catholic or pagan, but they believe they're in a war. Like they feel like community standards are getting, you know, squeezing them into a spot, and they're just mad. And there's like this global community around them, and they feel like they have to be a tribe. So I try to compassionate these people. There will always be Andrew Wilsons out there making space for them. I feel like it's more like a black hole sucking, you know, life force in, and it just, I think it's gross, but I understand it, and they're just gonna do that. So but back to, you know, in our circle we like to talk about esoteric concepts, and you know, they don't have to like that, whatever. We get a lot out of it. We are not, you know, traditionalists, whatever. But did you guys ever read the book The Crucible? I like read the play, because I was just like reading a summary of it, and I thought it was just so fitting for what we're talking about. So I'm just going to quickly read this summary for you guys so you can kind of like draw a parallel. But it says here, Arthur Miller published the play The Crucible in 1953 as a criticism of Senator Joseph McCarthy's McCarthyism and the McCarthy trials. So this, like, you know, hysteria and paranoia about the way that some people were living their life. So Miller uses the Salem witch trials in 1692 as the setting for his play. In the play, he shows what happens when logic and reason disappear and hysteria takes over. So it's about, at the beginning, Reverend Pears is sitting at his daughter Betty's bedside. Betty became ill after she, her cousin Abigail Williams, the servant Tituba, and several other girls were caught dancing in the forest. After calling in the Reverend Hale, who is a specialist in witchcraft, the girls, beginning with Abigail, start accusing people of witchcraft. Abigail uses her accusations as a form of revenge against John Proctor and his wife Elizabeth. Abigail, who had worked for the Proctors, had a brief affair with John Proctor. Elizabeth found out and fired Abigail over it. So like these personal things, you know, and then the jealous and vengeful Abigail accuses Elizabeth, who ends up in jail. Proctor, the tragic hero of this drama, focuses his time and energy on proving his wife's innocence and proving Abigail a liar. the more Proctor fights for his wife, the more he and his wife look guilty of witchcraft. So that's like, I always say, like, the more you deny something, like, the guiltier you look, and people will just accuse you of stuff. They just see you as weak. So yeah, during this time, other accusations and executions of so-called witches occur. A hysteria takes hold and people begin accusing other people of witchcraft for the most trivial of reasons. By the end of the play, the prideful John, who refuses to sign his name to a document confessing to be a witch, and the Honorable Rebecca Nurse are hanged for being witches. And Miller wrote The Crucible as a criticism and commentary of McCarthyism and the events happening in the 1950s. He very thinly disguises that commentary in the forms of paranoia and hysteria that create the accusations of witchcraft in the town of Salem. The themes of The Crucible are developed throughout that commentary and criticism. The Crucible themes of reputation, honor, and integrity are shown in several instances throughout the play. Many characters in the play wrestle with the decision to protect their reputation or their honor and integrity. And like, we're all gonna have to accept that these people might use our likeness and our what we say to try to hurt us. But like, I've already felt in my heart that I've stood in the judgment of everybody. So Andrew Wilson, if you want to use me, go right ahead. I really don't care. In fact, I mean, yeah, it's going to be hard for me to get these videos off the internet, guys. It's going to be a fight. So I'm sorry if I fail you in that. And yeah, just welcome to living in the internet. And I think that it's so fitting that we talk about witchcraft and the Salem witch trials a lot. And yeah, that's what it feels like.
His name is Hookworm, first off. And second, I don't even think it's the appropriate posture to suggest we can get things off the internet. Like, I don't even think that's the appropriate, like, I'm not saying we shouldn't try necessarily, but I don't think the posture should be that we are trying to succeed in getting things. I mean, it's the internet. Like,
You actually, you kind of want it to stay because the damage has already been done. And because it's already been done, by you trying to get it off, you end up turning it into a wound versus what it really is. It's taken me years to learn this skill. And I think Owen Benjamin is probably been my greatest teacher. Some of the best work I've done will always be met with a force, a palatable force. And the force has nothing to do with the work. It's the vortex of nature around you. And you will think that it has to do with the work. You will think that, well, Owen sat underneath a tree and read my book, The Technology of Belief. And after some contemplation, decided that the tenets were somehow not lining up for him. That did not fucking happen. There's a phrenology to this. And Alara's right. You see it at the dog park. You smell it. And the first thing that a small dog does when someone smells this is he rolls over and shows you his weak parts, right? We talked about this Monday. Here's my artery. Look at my artery. It's right here. I'm so completely vulnerable. I love you. Please, here's my artery. I have no boundaries at all. I have no boundaries at all. I have zero boundaries. Look how great I am. Look how great. And that's a tactic on the mat, and that you and I will use that to survive. There's nothing wrong with it. He's not a parasitic worm. A parasitic worm has a purpose in life. It's learning 1G love. What Andrew's providing for people is community. And none of us actually need to make a new product. That most of the time when people will say, oh, I'm going to see James True's new product, they're actually not going to see my new product. They're coming to see you guys. They're coming to feel community. I don't know if you'll ever understand this unless you've been on stage. Once you've been on stage, you actually understand why everyone's here. It's actually not for you. And it gives you this beautiful kind of context into your symbiosis of what's happening. The community vibe is what makes the music sound so good. Grateful Dead, I swear to you, if I put you in a listening room and played that shit, your ears would bleed. You'd be like, this is fucking awful. But if I take you on a show, if I take you there and you'll hear the bells, the guitar sounds like bells. It's church bells. And you smell patchouli and raw and non-aluminum sweat in the air. You smell the essence of everyone around you. And that's why you're there. That's what you love. One of the ways that I know this is because people in the group will typically dislike me first. What I mean is that they'll pose, I've got a problem with James, and they're saying it to you guys because I know and they know why they're here. They're there, they're here for you. They're here for that tribe. I am a badass freaking canopy tent setter-upper. I set up a mean tent, and you guys know it. You've been under my tent in some of the most brutal rain. You're like, dude, I don't know how to do it, but it's a great tent. It's a great tent. It's not a big tent. We can't fit a fire truck in here. We've tried. It doesn't work. And when people attack us, here's the big thing. Here's the big thing. No one in the dog park attacks the dog that can't take it. The dog that gets attacked is the dog that smells like he's fronting. And you might think that fronting means that he's pretending to be bigger than he is. And that's not why that happens at a dog park. It's the opposite. People smell you fronting. You're acting like a man bear pig. And they smell Prometheus on you. They smell the Ubermensch. They smell something taller. And you're an imposter now. And that imposter attitude is the worst thing you can do to anyone in the world. You can tell them lies, you can be sarcastic, you can manipulate them, but if they detect that there's an imposter in your midst, they're going to do what they did. They're going to burn you down. What happened with Owen, right? A Luciferian snuck under his radar, made best friends with his inner court, or whatever you want to say it, right? And then was suddenly revealed. You guys are new to this as an airship. I'm not saying each of you don't individually have this. Some of you probably gone through it much worse than I have. So please forgive me for reducing it this way, but I'm talking about you guys as a tribe. The first time this happens, you feel cheated. The second time it happens, you feel, what the fuck's wrong with the world? The third time, you're just like, holy shit, what's wrong? And then something different starts to happen. Either A, you get pissed about it and you say, I don't want this to ever happen again. And what's beautiful is the universe stops sending that to you. That you're the dog in the park saying, dude, I know that I smelled like a super dog, but actually I'm not. And then you pee on yourself. And as soon as you pee on yourself, all the other dogs are like, oh, I'm sorry. I thought you had your shit together. It's like, no, man, not me. Don't worry. It's like, okay, well, you can hang with us, but watch your posture. That's the truth movement. And that's everybody. That's your office. That's your neighborhood. That's your political party, right? That's your family. It's everyone around you. You're in an alchemical crucible of one, and you'll just notice the way other people treat you around you. I want you to understand part of the fundamental of what we're learning here is that you want so badly what happened this weekend to keep happening. Not only is he not a pointless, tasteless, whatever, he is the only indication that you will ever have of your altitude. It's the only one. When you're in the sky, you have no idea how high you are. The only way you know is by the people that you pass along the way. It's just the only way. It's the same rules on the interstate. And when you start to chop away at the negativity, you're actually cutting your own fuel. You're a hot air. is depleting because you're telling the environment, I don't like it up here. The only way that you can survive up here is to pull electrons from the negativity. You have to pull electrons from there. I was honored that he was going to roast me. That was a genuine reaction I had. I went in and posted on his board, thank you for considering my work. That was a genuine feeling. There was no faking at all. It's taken me 2.5 years to get there. It's taken me Milker Nation. It's taken me everything else that's happened to get there. And I'm still not there. I still have trouble. This weekend I stumbled. And I stumbled because people I really care about were clearly watching it because they couldn't stop fucking telling me about it. It's like they were giving me a fucking play-by-play. And it was really awful. I couldn't handle that part. I need practice. I need practice understanding that you're my friend, but you also really want me to smell how shitty this diarrhea tastes that's online right now. I get that this is love somehow. And I know that you'll only understand this weird nuanced position that I have once it's been on the other foot. So I don't even blame you. I would completely do the same thing. But there's another deeper lesson. And since there's no hands up, I want to tell you this because I think it's even better. First of all, you want anti-Dojo. You want anti-James. You want anti-you in the room at all times. All times. And you want to learn how to hold your posture in that smoke. That is the red pheasant. It is a gift. Noam, you did outstanding. It would not have made sense for me to call in, and I can explain why. I don't think I have to. I think you calling in made perfect sense. And I think you held your own with so much dignity and respect that it was really processing a lot of potassium in the room, even though you may not have seen it. I think that's actually part of why he came back into Telegram, Noam, was because of your speech. That he felt there was so much humanity in the face of him being that way that he had to come in and figure out what the fuck you guys were smoking. And so he came into the Telegram group. He wasn't done because he knew there's something here. Why does he know something's here? Because he smells your gravity. He knows what you are. That's why Owen reacted the way he did. He knew what he was reading. He could tell. And if you can find those people, you're not doing this for these people. You're talking to the universe. There's no reason to talk to Andrew. There's really no reason. I mean, it's not even about ignoring him. I'm just telling you, there's really no reason for that. If Andrew wanted to debate James True about the folly of James True, he would have said, hey, how about you and Jim Bob come do a one-on-one inside the Thunderdome? And then no, I would never do that reaction would then fuel this whole let's burn James True alone. Like that would have been beautiful TV. You could have shown the emails of him asking or whatever. None of that happened. And none of that happened because it's not enough anti-James. I need more. I'm not able to pull lift from that kind of weak place. I need someone to truly find where I'm broken and tell me about it. That's where I know I'll go higher. So I'm looking for a better critic. I'm looking for that as desperately as I can because every time I put out a new book, no one actually challenges me. They just insult me. They just say things about my hair or about my marriage or whatever else. And it's fine, but I realized that I could get more lift if I found a different pocket of people to insult me. That's the lift. When I came off 5.5, we were all so high, all of us were, that the reason why Sark fell apart instantly was because of the altitude. It's just the altitude. And the only reason why we were even able to notice the altitude is because of all the people that were suddenly just way down there. And you tell yourself they fell. You say, oh, look how they fell. They didn't fall. Like Noam said, this is what it feels like up here. There's not a lot of oxygen. You got to slow down, man. We're going to need every bit of oxygen, even the ones that have the negative spin. Those are going through we're going to drink those too. See, this is why no one's up here. This is why, as we're swimming around, there's no one here because it takes a certain posture to breathe. And the only way you get practice of that posture is you want Andrew to happen every day. Every day. And it's not about being a shock jock. You just have to be yourself. I'm always flabbergasted by the things people have no problem with and the things that they have massive problems with, like reality, being objective. I can't believe that they're freaking out about that. But I have a whole book where I'm basically licking the ass of the idea of a hermaphrodite, like telling you it's the most divine, magical thing I've ever heard about, that the Vitruvian man having 8 heads is literally having gonads and testes and ovaries too, that's what the 8 head things means. And the Adam command, like all this horrible transagenda stuff is right there. It's right there on the counter. And he can't take it because he'd have to read my book. And that's what insults me. It's a good book, man. There's some good stuff in there to grab. So I'm looking for a better version of Andrew, right? I'm looking for a better version to say that fucking idiot called it Maslow's pyramid for 8 months. Like that's what I need. That's who you want.
James,
Okay.
you said bones never break down.
Say what?
One time you said bones never break down.
Did I? Yeah, actually, I still believe that, because even if you burn them, you're going to have this salt left over. But I don't want to sound like I'm trying to win an argument. Thank you. It's a great example. Cameron, go ahead.
I feel compelled to try to be flattering. Maybe that's not the best time, but I listened to that email and I agree with knowing that was probably more a reflective letter from Andrew or a form. I've told James before that I'm terminally enthusiastic about his influence on my success, and something I've never shared with anybody though. And I've followed James since Owen. And studied him rather closely, I would say. I never shared him though with anybody, and I always kind of felt bad for that because I know James wanted to be shared. I had come out of 8 years of truth movement though, and I didn't know that people could recognize the difference between trying to share something that was James and just more source wars. But James, you gave me language to reach my father, my blood, after 39 years of estrangement, in ways that I hadn't been able to before, an atheist, because of your green belt or your compassion, understanding you helped me entertain ideas like that perhaps an atheist was seeking privacy from God, things that allowed me to reach him man to man in ways that just invaluable, things that I hope to, I don't think I could ever reciprocate for that. And but I think it's kind of funny. Laura was reading something, Noam read something. I saw that Cormac McCarthy died. I also saw that Aeon Byte, I think, said he was a crypto Gnostic. Before I get onto that, let me just say I was not aware of any of what had gone on until the meeting. I saw you guys leading up to it today, so I agree with you guys that I think ultimately every time we click on got it when we join a Zoom meeting, we know that it is public, essentially, despite the fact that there are paywalls. And I also like the idea of Noam talking about making it more expensive for people just to come in and snipe. But besides that, I actually had a couple of passages from Cormac that I wanted to share because there's very brief from his book, The Road, because some of the things I've taken from the truth movement, I'll never unlearn that stuff, you know, and so I don't even want to like have to be like this at each other's throats with people just because we want to grow or rise. You know, I would call it the geocentric movement. The flattered movement was something that was meaningful for me as a person who loved to read and loved fantasy and loved the classics, but I could never really understand them until I really saw North as something central instead of on top of a spinning goat hill. And it doesn't even say that's the way it has to be. It was just, it allowed me to compassionate the ancient, right, you know, the ancient work and things on a whole nother level that I hadn't been able to before I had made those considerations. It was a very important step. I want to share, Cormac, in honor of my father, who's looked to Mr. McCarthy as a hero. And if you guys wouldn't mind, they're not too long. I won't. These speak to me, though, as an esotericism from Cormac himself, or as a crypto-gnostic, as they would say. I think it would be better if I could. You know what, guys? I'm not going to share. I'm not going to share. Yeah, absolutely. But if you guys ever, I'm not much of a fiction reader. My father is a big time fiction reader, and if you like that kind of stuff, I think you would find a kindred spirit in Cormac McCarthy. I'm always impressed with his work. But thank you, James, for everything you do, and I'm looking forward to the dojo. And I see a lot of people throwing words around like logic. People that think a lot of themselves, and they don't make logic look heavy. They don't look like they're doing a lot of impressive stuff with it. I don't know. I don't even want to put people's names in my mouth, but I'm not impressed with people I see getting a rise out of what they see as perhaps our misfortune. I don't know.
I really love watching you unfurl in here, Cameron. It's really interesting journey. Thank you. Well, Matt, go ahead.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Well, yeah. After our Monday school, you know, I missed the last airships, and I was curious what happened. And thanks to Laura, she sent me the links because I was curious what happened. Everyone talking about the topic I don't know about. And then I have plenty. I had a little space of time, and I watched the videos. Not watched. I text Laura too. I skipped that to different points because it was a really low humor, really like a cadaver buffet of hyenas, you know, where they find some points that we're laughing at and so on. And I want to make this too long. I want to say what how I feel you, James, and how I feel the tribe. Most of this was ridicule, especially of, you know, they have had nothing with value. Nothing of your work was presented or criticized. Even, oh, look at this hair or his mustache or dumb things like that, you know. And watching when he make fun of our tribe, that bothers me a little bit, you know, because that's where I feel tribe feeling. Because they talk about you, shit about you. For you, an artist is one thing, but to talk about persons in here, which they met private, is a whole nother thing. This Jim Bob dude, I don't know how he became an comedian, cartoonist, or something like this. This guy is so unfunny or something like that. He makes no sense. But I must admit, and that was the part where I feel you, and I want to share how I felt. At one spot, I laughed, where he was joking about me, where I mentioned I have no credit card, and so, oh, yeah, of course, you have no credit card here. The Russian guy who lives in the basement of his mother, this kind of thing, you know, as I said. And at this time I realized, man, that's so low that these guys are so low that they even scratch my toes, you know, so tiny are they. And that was the point where I realized, where I hoped that everybody in this tribe who watched this bad comedy feel like the same tallness, that this kind of things even scratch our toes, you know. And in my shows, I always says in the beginning or at the end, I wait that the audience throwing flowers or throwing tomatoes, you know, that because that's part of the game. That's energy when you become public. And like they said in the showbiz, you know, there is no such thing as bad advertising or bad PR, you know. And everybody who have whose frequency is on a path, maybe if they laugh at the first time, but when they catch you, then it will be push our thing, or they will find, you know, like you mentioned before, how much people are going back and coming back, going forth and coming back again because they feel something. So I feel this kind of vital for us and for everybody. Yeah, that's a part of the game, that we have people that are yelling about you, or you know. And I don't know how I translate this, but in Turkish we had the saying, the proof of your tallness is not about the applauding people crowd. The proof of your tallness is about all the hyenas. They come around and want to bite a little part of you, you know. And I see that this kind of game started now, and it's kind of a credit for us. That's how I feel this. Yeah, thank you. Thank you all, man. I love all of you, really.
Hello, Mo. Well said, my
Hello,
friend.
James.
Yeah, well said. I just want to say really quick, I really hope that you hear what I'm saying, that the next time you feel strife, if you can go outside under the sky and say, I can take this, I'm welcome to this, what you're really doing is allowing the altitude change. You're saying, this is good. I'm good here. And if you can't do that, it's okay. The universe is going to be, oh, okay. You don't have to be up here. And it'll take you back down. It will. That's what happened with Johnny. He's tweeting Owen now. The irony of that should be hilarious, considering how much Johnny put into trashing Owen here. The universe will always bring you exactly where you need to be. So this strife is a blessing. It's a red pheasant in the woods. Pi, go ahead.
Well, interesting. I personally, I love this kind of shit, really. I mean, when people are doing it, not that I want to put too much energy into trying to combat it, but I've often been in the situation of being made fun of. And I just, you know, if you're like making fun of someone and being funny are two different things, and I think most people know that. It just reminds me of this ridiculous band that I was in, and all the signed, you know, the people that were signed on records and that were more serious, you know, it's like you look at their stuff now and they can't even like glory in their videos of their old performances because they look like toddlers. And they used to make fun of us because we were a funny band, but that was kind of our whole thing. And then it's like we're up on stage, you know, packing houses. They're supposed to be, you know, the signed band, and you know, it's just all jealousy, really, and it just comes out in different ways. And you know, the levity that we talk about, I'd be like, you know, they couldn't bring themselves to like come to our shows to even see what it was all about, but you could, you know, they'd peek through the window enough just so that they could say those guys are ridiculous. And you know, comes with the territory. It's actually, you know, a sign of some of the things that you guys have hit on, the levity and the, you know, it's, I don't really get very angry about that kind of stuff. You know, I find it very funny. Maybe there's something wrong with me. You know, I find that kind of behavior, you know, a bit humorous, and sure, it can be damaging, and it's just you can always make fun of somebody when it's on a video and take things out of context, and I don't even know who these people are, or, you know, I hear people talk about Jim Bob and all those kind of, and some of these characters, but you know, aren't they just kind of lowbrow, like the lowbrow truther community, you know, like just I mean, is there anything that those guys do, like Benjamin Owen, but make fun of people? I mean, is there anything serious that they do? It's like that's kind of what they do, right? Is make fun of people, and people that have an appetite for that are gonna like them, just like how Johnny, you know, is like, even though he's being quite hypocritical, you know, he's gravitating as if he's lowering himself down. You know, the gravity of these like minds are pulling him in, and you know, I don't really. Well, what about the other previous anti-dojos? I mean, that didn't really. It just went away. How many laughs are you going to get? You know, it's like a flash in the pan, and then it's done. It can't really go on very long. So I don't know. Does it bother anybody here that they were made fun of? I'm just curious what people here feel about it. You know, because I don't. I wouldn't want people to miss out on some of the alchemy here. But those are the things that came to mind. You know, it's like I don't really have much else to say about it, but not knowing very much. But that's what came to mind. You know, hearing you guys relay this, it's just I find it, without even knowing it, it's like I feel like almost like I'm ready to laugh at any second without even knowing. It's like that's just a sure sign I'm just in that same position that I've been in before. It just seems like the exact same thing as just other things I've experienced. I find it very funny myself, but like I said, I might have something a little wrong with me there. Anyway, that's all I have to say there.
Can I answer Pi? So I heard about these videos, Pi, and I'm is this the one after 5.5, the one directly after 5.5, where I called people, where I said that they don't like women?
Probably.
Okay, cool. So I actually don't want to watch these. I'm not even curious. I don't care. But I have to say, I do like the cover shot of James in that Crucible thing. I think it looks so badass. I was like, oh my God, that's all I need. This is so cool. I want that on a poster. Like, seriously, he looks good. The red, it's fucking awesome. So
Yeah,
that's what I got.
they didn't read your things, but they definitely burned some calories, right?
Mhm.
And look what they came up with. I mean, it's kind of,
I bet his wife made that picture. It was awesome.
Yeah, actually, I spoke to his wife. She's a mess, man. She's a mess. I was just trying to get them to take the videos down, and but anyway, you know, I know we have hands up, but I want to see if I can really quickly fit this in, because I did suffer something that is embarrassing that Noam touched on, but I just want you to know that it's a real, very real thing that I talk about all the time. And I think that my new altitude is scary for me, and that the way I look at who I am, I'm a conglomeration of neuro agencies, tendencies, and urges inside of me. And that the collective idea of James True is just simply the mass anarchy that takes place inside those neurological processes. I truly believe that's really the heart of who I am. And when people that I really respect were sending me, like, here's this guy saying these things, it felt like they were whispering them to me also. And the truth of the critique was just inside my head, because these are people I care about. It was very easy for me to put up with it from people I don't care about or don't have respect for. But when it's coming from people that are my friends, that obviously are moved because their time and space has been occupied with this system. And I saw, this is the part I want you to hear, I saw an opportunity to steel myself and drop a shitload of altitude. And I took it. And this is what Noam's referring to. And I took it as, oh, I'm defending your guys' honor because I'm an honorable man. That's not why I did that. It's not why I did that. I saw an opportunity to see what it would feel like if I lowered, like if I dropped like 5,000 feet. And so I stopped sleeping for 2 nights. I went on this crusade to try and find people that I thought maybe could help me put a little pressure on him to remove that video. I tried to explain myself that, you know, look, I have over 500 videos, you know, there's so much there. Certainly you guys could agree that, you know, this is just kind of out of bounds is all. And none of them, none of them helped. In fact, Marty Leeds, I cannot believe this. Marty Leeds joined in on the party, which is just amazing, because right now he's saying, God bless, God bless. And he in the, if there was ever a time to defend a stranger in a Samaritan purse kind of a way, it would have been that on that Rumble stream. And even he's piling on. And it was such a beautiful, beautiful turn of events for me, because I lost all that altitude. I felt like shit. I was just like, there's nothing we can do. There's everything I planned is ruined. And none of it was real. All of it was make-believe. All of it was pretend crusade drama bullshit that I was feeding myself because I thought maybe I want to get off the interstate right now. Maybe I do. Oh, I have a shaky tire as I'm shaking. Oh my goodness, the wheel is shaking like crazy. I better pull over right now. And that's what I do. And when you look at yourself in the mirror and you catch that, most people don't. Most people are like, oh, I don't see that. No, I'm victimized. I've been treated unfairly. I'm not meant for this to happen because the world is stopping me. And they're telling me that the only way I can be successful is to let my friends be shat on. That's why, James. And so are you evil? Do you want to be? And all those beautiful drama. None of you would hear that. You should watch me. You want to know why I live alone? Because I have this much drama. It's beautiful. The kind of intricate stories I fill in my house of just like, oh my God, unrequited pain. Oh, it's great. Like, it's great. And I want you to know this about yourself, that this is beautiful. I'm showing myself how powerful my placebo is, and I'm doing it by lying to myself, that an agency comes in and takes over my entire string instrument. Every ligament, every muscle, every tendon is taken over by this other force that says, maybe we'd be more comfortable on our knees. So let's try and get on our knees. And thank God you go deep enough, and a part of me, like Sunday night, was like, this is so wrong. This is so wrong. What are you doing? What are you doing? Just like Noam said, it was, why the fuck am I treating a bunch of adults that are frankly stronger than the average person out there? Why am I suddenly treating them like a poor innocent That's why I'm doing it. And it's beautiful. This takes ego. This takes ego. The only reason why I can do that is because if you check my bank, I have 7,000 ego credits, and what I just did cost me 680. That's the only reason why I did it. And if you don't watch your language, your posture, your vibe, who you're hanging out with, your diet, where you park, how you feel about yourself, your self-talk, your lack of self-talk, if you don't watch those things, you just won't have enough calories, and you'll slowly asphyxiate yourself just by drinking alcohol and just removing calories from the table slowly, 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 until you get back down to the altitude where there's no more beef. No one bitches when you're in the bottom of a pit. No one bitches about you. You're the good guy now. Those are the bad people. You're the good guy because you're down here, right? You got to remember that. That's why this is a blessing, because if I don't say this is a blessing, I lose this air, and I fucking love it up here. It's fucking awesome up here. It's so great up here. We're airships all the way, right? It's so great up here. Seth, go ahead, my friend.
Hey, James, how's it going?
Good.
So I just wanted to, I got an invite to the airship with, I guess, regarding the recent brouhaha over the wireless threat porn, as it were. And I think, James, you'd characterize some of my postings in Energy as being like sort of like Chicken Little and getting people to come into my fear cave and be scared and enraged, etc. And at least with this last sort of incident, I feel, you know, when I posted that link about the webinar series and sent it to Amanda earlier had asked me, you know, why are you, I don't know if she said afraid, but basically, you know, what's your research that led you to conclude that radio frequency is some sort of threat or health harm? And I'd sent her the Peter Tachi articles earlier, and then I found this webinar, which by the way, this is about the furthest thing away from sort of a fear porn hysteria kind of link. It's a very well put together conference and webinar. It's more technical in nature, but if you really wanted to kind of wrap your mind around what these technologies that fall under the rubric of the 5G marketing term are, that would be an excellent resource. And I knew from the time interval between when I posted that and Amanda's response and then somebody else's response, I can't remember who it is because I don't have the chat up in front of me, that they didn't have time to look at any of these videos. It would have been impossible, okay? But yet it's being shot down as, you know, threat porn, fear porn. I'm just trying to like stir up fear. And I felt like it was a real, it's frustrating for me because I've invested a lot of time and energy to educate myself about this topic. Okay. And I feel like I'm bringing a silver nugget of wisdom and serving it up on a silver platter. And then it's just being swatted down with sort of like a head in the sand response. And I don't know, I get a little ticked off at that, you know. It's like, you didn't even watch the videos and you're just rejecting it out of hand. And I could ask you guys in this, I would bet, and this is, you know, not to put everybody on the spot, but like, how many of you know what the test procedure is for a cell phone that's sold and marketed in the US and approved by the FCC? Does anybody know what that test procedure is? Raise your hand, just type it in the box. Okay, you know, James does. Anybody else besides James? Okay, James, can you explain to me what
a container of water, something arbitrary and not doesn't
I mean, that's a vague outline on it, yes, but you couldn't tell me the procedure. James, do you know what the procedure is?
Yeah, I do. And I think that this is really clever to think that this is about the video or about like this one particular issue. And I don't think it is. I think it's more about your energy set. And I don't know if we can entertain that right now, because I think you want to talk about cell phones, and we can, but I'm not really interested in that. And I think what you're seeing in the chat is that people are seeing through that and they're like, dude, can we talk about your energy? Because the Chicken Little thing was a very specific thing, and you missed the nuance of what I said, that I think that there's genuine prana energy for you, which you deserve. You're entitled to take, that there's genuine energy for you in thinking that you are the one who is educating people on a new threat. I think that you feel power in the fear that you hope someone would feel by that new threat. And I can't say that I feel this way because you posted that link. I don't even know that link, nor do I know what Amanda said. I actually stopped reading what you said a while ago because of the energy. And it's really not specific. It's more about you and your vibe is all. And I ask you here, not because I want to fix your vibe. I don't. I genuinely think that there's a lot of fulcrum with you being in our group. And I think that some people find themselves on the border of the fulcrum and they just can't imagine holding the posture. And I think you end up testing us a lot by saying the things that you're saying, because maybe you think that we are creating a fantasy bubble, that we just don't see things. And so you end up being sort of the drag in the room, and there's nothing wrong with being the drag. But when you're always the drag, you're always the anchor every time, it simply just becomes obvious to people. And so they stop listening. That's what I think has more happened. And that it's not really about a specific topic, because you certainly bring things to the table, but implying that that we don't already know what a microwave does. I've watched a microwave tower cook a chicken, like an internet connection, cook a live chicken. It's cell towers do the same thing. It's actually why they're banded in such a way that there's a frequency modulation that's required. I think that any kind of signal, any kind of radiation is going to be something you can either handle or you can't. It's a lot like rock music, you know? If you hate the music, you're going to get sick. If you love the music, you're probably going to have a good time. And I think this is more about the placebo. So it's not that I think you're wrong. It's that I keep seeing this other struggle, and I wish we could talk about that. So I don't really have a lot of patience for the articles, because I don't actually come to Telegram to read articles. I come to connect with people like you. Like, that's why I come. I come to connect with humans. And we each have our own goals and whatnot, but that's just my 2 cents. I hope that helps. Anybody got any on that? I know there's hands up. Sorry, I wasn't sure.
Well, who are you, Seth? I don't know who you are. Can you introduce yourself to me just quickly, like in 10 seconds?
Hey, I came across James's work, I think about a year ago, with his interviews with Amanda Vollmer on the Epstein stuff. And then I saw the Eye of Ra video a buddy of mine sent me like August of last year. And that was really kind of my introduction to the material. And I was like, wow, this is mind-blowing stuff. This really helps me understand and I guess compassionate for why people aren't able to see things the same way I am. And so I had a little more empathy for them, especially in light of the whole convid, brouhaha. So I joined the Airship flotilla, now defunct, I think back in November. So I'm not some longtime community member or something like some other people here that have recently had the falling outs of, which I can talk about too a little bit more with my interactions with Johnny and Sark post that and the big split and the mutant years room and all that. But so I just, I was in the flotilla from around November and enjoying a lot of the people that I was interacting with and the information I was coming across. And I just found it really valuable. And I think that the work is, kind of cutting edge that James is doing. And it's helping me on sort of my path and trying to understand what this world's all about greatly. I think there's a definite shift in the tone of the community since that November when I dropped, and that ultimately ended up in the implosion, in and around 5.5, and a bunch of people kind of going their own separate ways. And so I sort of tentatively, re-engage in Aquarian Earth in this new room, but it's got a different energy, and in some ways better, in some ways, I don't know, like from my perspective, a little more of a hug box, but I mean, that's who I am. I'm just, I'm in my, late 40s and sort of Gen Xer. And I've been on the, sort of the truth path, I guess, since maybe 2006, 7, when I found out about Building 7. So that's just a little background about me. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that gives me an idea, just,
Yeah.
so, that tells me, what you're missing out on. You're missing out on all the dojo training, which I find a little ironic, because I think Sark mentioned that he's like kind of I don't know, kind of into martial arts or something like that. And, you know, I don't know. I don't mean to slight anybody, but I find serious martial artists people to be quite humorous in my experience when they what they do. And you know, Sark never got the dojo training, if you want to call it that, and Johnny B never did either. So they're missing out on all that stuff that we did, you know. And so the airship, you know, that anyway, that's, you know, you're kind of judging it from like the airship. Like if this would have been in a dojo, and you kind of remind me of like how myself, like when I first spoke in the dojo and people were saying, I don't feel anything from you, you know, like I don't, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, and then I learned some things that I didn't even know that there was to learn. So anyway, that tells me pretty much, but thank you. I appreciate your introduction.
Yeah, no problem. I'll yield to whoever else wants to talk. Lots of hands up.
Thanks for coming, Seth. Mike Broadwell, go ahead. Good to see you.
Oh, just real brief. Just you mentioned the altitude thing, and it's funny. I've noticed in the last several weeks since I really, you know, going through more compassionating and various things, that I notice how much less I'm scapegoating, and how many times it's like, oh, I could use some energy, but there's nobody to scapegoat. And it's kind of funny that unconsciously, or really, like you say, there is less air to breathe. There's less of the free energy just when you want to bash somebody and blame them. And then I actually am over in Asheville. I drove over yesterday, and I was kind of binge listening to Neville Goddard, which is really profound stuff, I think, and on belief technology, really. And it's really starting to hit me that, you know, I'm doing this to myself, you know. You know, and not that I didn't kind of know that, but you know, it kind of hits you at another level, like, oh geez, my whole life I could have, you know, I've caused a lot of this to happen. And it's I feel a bit down energetically, and that's good, because it's actually, you know, kind of that stuff you have to sit through and go through, you know, facing that. But it's profound, the belief technology. He lays it out really well, and it dovetails a lot with what you're talking about. And so it's just interesting. I really don't care for these kind of hyena things. And I guess it's good, because I think the world's getting burned out on all this stupid stuff. Maybe a lot more people are just getting tired of it, because it's just so ridiculous. I remember I ushered sometimes for plays, and I ushered a few weeks ago for this Book of Mormon play. And I'd heard of it, but I didn't know anything about it. I figured it would be a trash in the Mormons, and I just couldn't stand it. It was so lowbrow and so tasteless. And a few years ago, I would have laughed at it, you know, but I just couldn't stand even sitting through it. And I was just almost disgusted that people in the South and Alabama were actually sitting and listening to this trash. And so anyway, it's just interesting how hopefully that, you know, we're elevating above a lot of this hyena stuff in general, and people will just quit putting up with it. I don't know.
A lot of opportunities to compassionate right now. The 15 minutes
Yeah.
is showing you so much. It really is. And I actually think it's related to where Seth's at. And I'm really glad people can hear your voice, because I think it gives them a reset now. That I think you'll find if you do want to come back to that group, or I don't know the status, but I'm just saying that I think you'd find that goes a lot farther. When someone posts links, I'm not saying you do this, Seth, but the more links someone posts, the more I just kind of realize why they're actually here. And, you know, at least in that group and whatnot. And it's fine, but you learn to give a different attenuation to different people, because you know where the berries are, you know where the nuggets are. So if you ever want to talk about how it felt to me to watch your presence. I'm only telling you what I feel, not because I think it's right, but because I hope it would be constructive and useful. I'm shocked by the sound of your voice because it's so completely different than your tone in that group. It really is. And this is why I hate Telegram. I don't actually like that place. I'd rather it be an extensive privilege for people that are actually producing in here. When I say producing, I mean refining their vitriol in a caged witness environment, which we've so beautifully made here. So, Courtney, go ahead.
Hey, I actually just wanted to chime in a little bit and reply to Seth, because I did see a little bit of that kind of transaction going on in Telegram. And I think, I mean, I can only speak to me. Having kind of been on both sides of it, I understand what it's like to go through and kind of be discovering something, or you want to talk to people about what you figured out. You have, you have what you consider to be evidence, and you're like, why won't people see? Like, I have good links. I totally get that, but I know, like, from my perspective, I'm at 15 years of looking at everything that's in my food that's trying to kill me. I have MS, and I've done a ridiculous amount of work to heal it through nutrition or meditation, and I've been through every truth or rabbit hole that you could possibly navigate. And I think, I'm assuming, I'm not alone in that. A lot of us are just, we're sort of done. I'm done with that. I like, no more rabbit holes. Like, I don't care what's in the food. I don't care what's in the air. I don't care what 5G is trying to kill me. It's like, for me, my battle has become spiritual. It's not about the physical material world and what they might be doing to it, even though, yeah, that stuff is still sort of annoying sometimes. To me, it's more spiritual at this point, because I don't have the calories to spend on looking at, I spent years on the most restrictive diet you could possibly imagine, or wanting to find out everything that was going on with 9/11, or everything that was going on here. And I just reached a point where none of it really matters anymore. And it's like, my focus is personal, it's spiritual, it's between me and God, and whatever the material world, that's going to sort itself out. And so, for my mental health, like, I just don't get involved in that kind of stuff anymore, because it creates anxiety in places I don't need to have it. So I think what somebody might construe as being sort of dismissive, or if you don't feel like people are taking your point, they also might have sort of just be burned out on the topic. And you might, unfortunately, have just come to it a little bit later than somebody else. And some of us have been in the rabbit hole for a very long time. We're just done, and we don't care anymore about that stuff. It's like, we're on to something else. At least I know that's what I feel. So I can see his, like, why won't people sort of engage on that? But I think, at least for me and some of the others, I would assume that ship sort of sailed a while ago. So
Yeah, I actually have engaged too, but I noticed, Seth, that when I was engaging, you didn't really want to hear what I had to say either. I just wasn't giving you a link. I was just more telling you my standpoint is more about, what posture do I lose the most electrons in? I find that posture and I say, why the fuck am I holding this posture? And then I just noticed that if I remove all those postures as much as possible, I'm able to emanate morality. It comes pouring from my fingers, but only if I have enough calories to do so. So from my standpoint, I actually feel like it's hurting the world by feeding me these links right now, because I think that what would help the world the most is if I could pollinate it with as much spine and posture as I can, because naturally, if I did that, I have complete faith knowing that if they go from 32 hertz to 33 hertz, their entire fucking universe will change. And I'll wake up and there'll be like flowers on my door. And it won't be because they know me. It'll be this random potlatch episode that just occurs because we're doing it too. Half of us in here are secret underground merry pranksters. We can't even talk about the stuff we do. And it's part of what happens when you have enough calories. You find yourself looking for a band of playmates like we have and going, dude, we need to fucking do some things. And so we are. And the only reason why we can do them is because we have calories. That's it. And I think the reason why we have calories is because we don't burn them. I mean, we use them on good things. That's a horrible analogy, what I said. Anyway, Courtney, Mike, I think that's the same hand. Courtney, that's probably the same hand. I hope I'm right about that. If not, interrupt me. But Lori, I know this is a new hand, so go ahead.
I'm really grateful for this conversation, and I'm really grateful that I get into home plate right at the right time to compassionate things that are so important to compassionate. I've been in this truth movement and for a really, really long time. I'm also a very creative person that is constantly in creation until 2020, when it robbed me of all of my creativity. Every rabbit hole of what was going to kill me and how I wanted to save everyone I loved robbed me of 2.5 years of my life and separated me from everyone that I really loved, because they didn't want anything I had. And I had a lot of good things. I had lots of good links. And I learned about the link thing. And I also know, as I've done many years of shamanic training with the high Andes people of Peru, that I was actually using my placebo to create what I thought was hell on earth by using my mind palace for that. So I skid into home plate to compassionate something that I was trauma bonding with my daughter. The only place that there was an opening was in the trans movement. And James, you came skidding in with the rainbow and came skidding in June. And I was like, oh my God, I was supposed to be on a European vacation with my daughter. And, you know, I had to abort. I went up to 5'5" and everything changed, because I knew that I wasn't, the bees and the honey thing, I wasn't going to get, I was going to get any honey. So the good news is I was able to open up my aperture. So I just want to say that when I met you, James, and I read as many books as I could, my aperture got so wide open to every truth thing. You went down every rabbit hole and went down even further than I had ever thought that I could go in and open up. It almost made me insane. And then I woke up and I said, oh, all of it's true, but now I'm going to create the reality I want to live in. So my granddaughter, who is a very special human, 21 years old, came in the most loving relationship that I've witnessed. And she came in and did not trauma bond with me about what happened with her estrangement from her whole family, 9 siblings and 2 parents. And I was able to hold such sacred witness for that. I wouldn't have been able to do it. And how long have I been in this tribe? I mean, such a short period of time. So I want to say thank you, Noam. I mean, that presentation at 5'5", I thought he was really, I mean, it was like, I was in awe of the Vitriol Orchestra. I still am. And I'm like in awe of every single one of everyone's uniqueness. So it makes my uniqueness want to not go down rabbit holes anymore. It wants me to create and be my uniqueness and just like not give a flying flip what anyone thinks of me, but not having to prove I'm right about anything. And that is so like, I just want all my knowledge to be erased. And I just want to go into like, what do I want to be creating? And so I just want to give real big, shout out to the vitriol. I mean, without it, I wouldn't be here, so thank you.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Lori. It's nice to have your energy. No, go ahead.
I just wanted to say welcome to you, Seth. And I do really appreciate that you came here and brought it in person. Like, it does make a huge difference when someone is actually willing to kind of cross that chasm. Because for some people, it's some unpassable chasm. I don't know, whatever. I was the person in the Telegram that dubbed it threat porn. So I was involved in sort of that interchange. And I'm only speaking from my interpretation of what I was feeling or seeing. I'm not speaking for like Amanda, for example. But the impression I got was that when Amanda was probing, she was really more probing to learn more about you and not about other subjects or info about that. She was more curious about your personal kind of relationship to the subject, perhaps. It's that kind of thing. I think that was the kind of probing. And so when she got back, just information about something that's not you, that's where the disinterest came in, I feel like. And it was me feeling that from her was what kind of helped spawn my reaction of like, yeah, we're not really interested in this kind of thing. We were interested in kind of you. Like, what's up with you? And so I think it was more about that. But I think in general, when it comes to the ideas here, I say this a lot, and I think it's true. We react way more to the posture that you have while you hold the idea than the idea itself. That's not always the case. I'm sure there are certain ideas for certain people are going to be super inflammatory, but I think a lot of times it's much more about the posture of the person holding it. But I think in that instance in the Telegram, that's what I was feeling. And welcome.
Go ahead, Seth.
Hey, all right. Well, thanks, Noam. I appreciate that. I mean, I think there is so much that's lost in the the written word communication in the modern day, especially with thumbs on tiny screens, whatever. I'm not a huge fan of it either. In fact, I'm pretty down on Telegram for a variety of reasons. And at least in the Airship Flotilla, I was much more active. I like to do the voicemails and trade the voicemails back and forth. And then all that got wiped away or locked. I don't even know if it's still up. And that's kind of another one of my irritations about the community split is that there were some valuable conversations and information in there that just poof, disappeared overnight and I lost access to. And some of it I wanted to come back to and reference, but I can't do that anymore. And, I don't know, who to blame. I just, it was kind of abrupt, and I understand, I think from a certain extent, James's reasons for cleaning effing house and dropping the hammer. However, it just seemed like, maybe he's too busy planning for 5-5 to take a more graduated approach, whatever. But I didn't like how all that went down. And I'll circle back to that in a minute, but just to respond more to what you said, Noam, I appreciate the way that you put that, because now it makes more sense to me. And thinking back about Amanda's comments, etc., with your perspective on it, now I have a little bit better idea of where she was actually coming from, because I misread it, I misinterpreted it. And I think that was also what was happening with some of James's my interactions, where he doesn't feel like I'm either listening to him or understanding what he's saying, and then he gets frustrated and gives up. It's like, it's not worth my time. And I had pressed for some more clarification stuff and then got a non-response, and I felt like, well, I'm trying to do my best to respond to James's points, but he's not responding to mine, so on and so forth. So yeah, I mean, I'm a much more of a direct person, and I appreciate James' policy of like, if you got beef, you should bring it with the airship. And that is actually one of the things that caused the falling out that between myself and Johnny B and Sark, was that I was like, hey, you guys are saying all these bad things about James. Why don't you freaking slug it out in the airship? I mean, there's a power differential here that is a big part of this, right? Because James is kind of like the founder and leader of the tribe, the alpha. And in some respect, I think like Johnny B and Sark were a little bit more like beta orbiters. And so there's I don't know. Sark had his own thing in the high magic and whatever, so he's a contributor, but it was still kind of like writing to a certain extent on James's coattails, I think. And in my conversations with him, so what happened is that, like, I hear these things about going on, everything's going on with James, and then the airship got shut down, and then Johnny B invited me to like the mutineer Telegram group that Sark set up, and I'm in there and I'm like, I'm just trying to figure out what's going on, right? I'm not trying to stir shit, I'm not trying to create drama. I'm just like, what happened? What just happened? And then I got accused, and I was suggesting to Sark, like, why don't you go on the airship and slug it out if James is guilty of all these things? And his position seemed to be, I mean, that he got really testy quick. Like, if you want to get on Johnny B's bad side or Sark's bad side, then just suggest they should go on the airship and confront James in a quasi-public. I mean, it's not totally public, right? But it's in front of a group, it's in front of peers, whatever. And so Sark and I had an exchange trying to figure that out. And it was testy at first, and then I thought we were cool, and we kind of understood where each other were coming from. And Johnny B had like listened to one voicemail out of about a half dozen I'd left going back and forth with Sark on this, and decided that I was he called me a Trojan horse, And something else said he's really disappointed with me. And like, I was just there like trying to stir drama. I was like, no, I'm trying to figure out what happened. And so I posted a big Lebowski gif and boom, I got booted from the group. And the thing that burns my ass and the biggest problem that I have with Sark and Johnny B, and I've talked to them privately about this and so that is like, look, when you are on the receiving end of what, you know, I think they'd claimed that they tried to work things out with James and privately first, because I think it's a good policy to criticize in private first and praise in public. Okay. And maybe if you feel like you got a real big axe to grind or whatever, then you go public with it, whatever. But I think you should always try to take criticisms to people privately in general, unless it's just an understanding of like the airship or whatever, that you guys are going to do this in a more public forum, right? But when it came to me and their treatment of me, there was an, you know, they said that James would rebuff these attempts, and Sark was vehemently opposed to going onto airship because it was like, well, that's James's turf and that's just what he wants, and he's going to maneuver him into some kind of scenario where, you know, he's going to that'll just feed James his ego and feed the beast and everything like that. And it's like, I don't know. That's not my personality. I disagree with that. I think he should just go in there and let him have it, you know. But he was adamantly against that, and so that's where we were kind of at loggerheads. But see, when it came time to boot me out of their group, there was no private criticism, right? There was no working things out in private. There was none of that. And I called them out and said, look, that's total hypocrisy. Like and when the shoe's on the other foot and the power differential, like I'm just the new guy here trying to figure out what's going on. You guys don't have any problem at all just arbitrarily banning somebody and then you won't work it out in private, you know? So all your complaints about James, I think, were like BS in my opinion, because of, you know, like I said, shoes on the other foot, the power differential works the other ways, then they don't have any problem with it at all. So that's why I lost a certain amount of respect for him. And I think they should come in here and look, a lot of people that run a platform, they won't even let you back in on it. At least whatever James is guilty of, he is giving you a forum to come back and air your grievances, right? But they won't do it. They won't do it. And they take pot shots and you know, I'll just leave it at that. I have some other things that I might reach out to James privately with, but I think I've said enough for right now.
Well, I know we're over time, but I really appreciate this. I think it's a really healthy discussion. And I just really hope that, Seth, I can at least put this in your mind. I never once shut down any group.
James, your volume keeps going lower and lower.
That was always Sark's group. Go ahead. Laura, go ahead.
That sucks to hear that, Seth. It really does, because he said many times to us, he loves us. And, you know, we were supposed to be his friends, and now it's suddenly James's turf, and that's exactly what he wants. That makes me sad to hear. So I hope that he actually reconsiders and comes and just talks sometime. Because like, I'll be honest, I miss him. And it sucks that now they're giving that Crucible guy money. So that's shitty. But anyway, about Telegram, I love going back and forth on Telegram. I hope that you don't hate me for it, but I will send you links about transhumanism if you send me links about why 5G is going to kill me. I have a different worldview, and I hope that's okay. I mean, you can watch the videos that I post and tell me what you think. And I will make time to watch the videos. If you ask me a question tomorrow, like, I will watch a video. But I also want to be able to have a back and forth that's not feeling hostile and not feeling like you're trying to force this down my throat. So, and I don't think, like, I don't want anyone to think that I want them to have my views. Whatever. James makes fun of NASA. I actually really like NASA. I'm just like, I have really unpopular views, and that's okay. That's why I have my own channel, and I put my own Telegram channel together, and I do my transhumanist shit there. And like, there's lots of groups on Telegram. You could probably find one that is exactly like your energy, and they want to hear what you have to say. You sound like a really smart dude. Like, I hope that you find more community that's beneficial for you. You know, I don't think you're outrunning the radio towers. I think that these waves have been around since the beginning of time, and that we've just directed them with our technology now. So yeah, I mean, you're always going to feel uncomfortable about some topics and not look into them at all. And And I think I'm kind of a pragmatist. Like, I don't really want to have loyalty to any one specific view all the time. I want to be able to change my mind. And yeah, it's kind of, I think everyone kind of has a teleology and works from a teleology and where they see the world, where it's going, what they want from that angle. So I see certain viewpoints getting us there, and you see certain viewpoints getting us there, and others that impede your teleology. And that's just how it goes. We're going to share things back and forth. We're going to play with each other. Maybe Amanda was just like, let's see your research then, buddy, you know, but you know, she's a nice person. I don't think that you should feel hurt. So yeah, and it is good to hear your voice.
Yeah, I think you've shown tremendous posture here on the mat tonight, Seth. Proud to know you finally we get a detractor that's got a spine. I love it. So, and I don't even think you're a detractor. Sorry, I didn't mean to characterize you that, but just, you know, someone who had disagreement that just couldn't articulate it. I genuinely agree, appreciate that. So we are over, really appreciate it. Seth, I hope you come back again. I know it might sound weird to have to ask for a miracle if you don't have an account, but we got them now. And as long as we can stay over 33, we're going to have that, all the miracles that, you know, that affords. So I hope you can make it back again. I don't want to end your conversations on things like that. When I see you bring that up, like the AI thing, I saw it as an opportunity to tell you something that I didn't think you'd heard before. And I used the word landmines. And from my perspective, you shut me down when I said that there was just no getting through past that. And so from my standpoint, I felt like, well, this is over, but I feel it's over all the time. And then 3 days later, I'm right back in there, and I've done that with you too. So I hope you stick around. I really appreciate you. Sorry for running long, everyone. Anyone have any last words? It's a great time to do them now. What you got, anyone?
Oh yeah, if you have an open spot for a +1, send it to someone in the community who needs it. Ask, Telegram's a good place to do that, but I don't want to be the one giving out links all the time. I just want you guys to pair up, buddy up, find somebody who, you know, would benefits from this. Okay.
Yep. It's not potlatch if you don't have to lift a finger. Lift a finger. Laura's only got 10 and she's doing great. So, but yeah. All right, guys, let's unmute and say our good nights. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh.
Good night.
Good night,
Good
guys.
night, everybody.
I know.
Night, everyone.
Orchestra.
Seth.
Orchestra.
Good night.
How do we give a +1? You ask Laura.
Good
You just send them the link.
Yep, you just send them the link. That's all you got to do. All right, bye, guys.
Yeah, bye.
Ciao.